What are you still salty about? The fact that I spelled mayonnaise correctly in my 4th grade class spelling bee, but the teacher claimed I didn't and dismissed me. I had one in the 3rd grade, and proceeded to win in the 5th and 6th grades as well. The unfair disqualification in 4th grade ruined what would have been a 4-year streak. Edit. I am sorry so many of you have also experienced spelling bee injustice. My sister got a brand new car for her 16th birthday. I got $20.
That my 6th grade teacher refused to believe I had no idea the dude sitting behind me was copying my answers on the test. Coming second in a school trivia competition 21 years ago. I had the correct answers on 2 questions that would have sent us to the national champs and was vetoed by the other 3 shitheads on my team. I was at a house party in college and we had to take off our shoes. Some bitch walked home in my leather knee-high boots and I've never gotten over it. Edit. For clarity, she left her dirty-ass shoes behind for me to go home with, so thanks I guess you shoe-thieving wrench.
A friend told me that they only hang out with me when all of their other options run dry.
On a 4th grade math test we had to make a shape that had only 4 sides, 1 set of parallel lines, and only 1 right angle. There were probably more requirements but I can't remember. I remember almost crying at my desk and spending 20 minutes on that one question while constantly telling my teacher that it wasn't possible but according to her it was. And the next day we went over the answer key, and the answer had 2 right angles.
When I had to get photos printed for a university project, so I went to a printer shop and they charged me £2 extra for a DVD with my photos on, even though I told them I didn't want the DVD, so I didn't get it, but they still charged me anyways and threw away my receipt before I could look at it. So with my new photos I went to hand in my project, only to be told that we were doing a peer review of them. No one in my group did the project and couldn't care less about it. So I wasted all that time and effort. Still so salty.
When my old boss pulled out the 2020 calendar in late 2019, and asked everyone what days off they need so we can plan ahead and around. Everyone was spitting off dates. I didn't have any plans yet, so I didn't request anything until she specifically asked me if I wanted any dates off. I shrugged and asked for 1 day around my birthday because why not, and she started mocking me in front of everyone. It's just a 23rd birthday, why would you need that off? But Uok, obviously rolling her eyes, then started treating me like an idiot the rest of the day.
A child in my child's class at school told their teacher that their mom was taking them out of school for the day of their birthday and so they would be absent on that day. The teacher admonished the child and told them that if they weren't present the following day that there would be hell to pay. The child was rightly upset and decided to go into school. They hadn't taken down their homework properly and so did 3 different pages of work. It was the wrong work. The teacher locked the child in the classroom over lunch, on their birthday.
20 years ago I had 3 friends show up at my house and when they left my wallet with $80 in it was missing. One of the guys felt bad and gave me $20 back. 3 years after that we are in the BK drive-thru and he whipped out my wallet. Still salty. His Facebook friend request has just been sitting there for like 2 years.
When I was 10, I, the goody two-shoes nerd, was sat in the back of the bus, next to the class troublemaker, because we had assigned seats thanks to him. He took apart someone's science fair project that was being kept back there, and threw a piece out the window. When someone tattled on him, he blamed it on me, and since the teacher couldn't prove one way or another, they just punished both of us, despite 15 kids coming to my defense. Fuck schools and their fairness in discipline. All I got was 1 study hall. Kids today are getting bullied relentlessly because they know that standing up for themselves means getting suspended.
I once returned a wallet to a police station like 15 years ago. They laughed cause there was money in it still. They then asked for my address so they could mail me a little something to commemorate the good deed. Never got anything. Sad face, I just wanted to hang it on my fridge. Edit. This was in some random town a few friends and I were passing through in the Midwest. I didn't expect anything in return, just wanted it. Double edit. Guys, why would you mark me with faith in humanity restored? I made a post about how I was upset my good deed didn't produce results for ME. That's not behavior worth rewarding. Lol. Final edit. You all have been awesome sharing your salt with me as well. Dare I say we've become an ocean?
That my managers wouldn't let me have a weekend off for what would have essentially been my honeymoon because, it's Small Business Saturday and you need to be here. I gave them over a month's notice and Small Business Saturday lasted all of an hour. Thank God, I don't work there anymore.
I was probably 5 years old visiting my mom at the hospital after she gave birth to my brother and she was given food on a tray which she didn't want so she gave it to me. I put the tray on the table and as I was eating, the nurse takes the tray away from me and throws away the food. That may have my first true instance of anger in my life. I'm 27 now and I'm pissed as I'm writing this, haha. Years ago a guy the first worked with said he could guess the age of any girl in line. I pointed out the girl closest to us who was a tween and asked what's her age. He then called me a pedo for asking him to guess the age of a girl. Edit. I should note this job was at an amusement park where some people literally had the job of guessing ages, weights, heights.
My brother eating the remainder of my birthday cake behind my back a couple of years ago. After the celebrations I put what was left in the freezer to have some other time as a nice treat, birthday cake being a novelty. The fucker demolished every last bit of it. This wasn't just a little slice of cake leftover, at least half of the cake remained until he got his mitts on it. Was absolutely fuming.
Came second in food tech competition. Made a lovely main course then longs do chab biscuits with lemon posset for dessert. I made this dessert because the judges prior to this day told us, don't make a cake for dessert, guess what won first place? A fucking cake.
When I was 21, I was deeply self-conscious about my baldness and I wore a hat everywhere. A friend of mine thought I was worried over nothing, so he set me up on a date with a wonderful woman. Everything went well at first, but when the hat came off, she shrieked and sprinted to the bathroom. And that was that.
My mum ate a candy I saved for after school. It happened 20 years ago. The question in second grade math. Joe read 2/5 of his book and Sue read 1/4 of her book. Who read more pages? It depends on how big their books are, is absolutely the correct answer and shouldn't have been marked wrong. And you fucking know it, don't you, Mrs. K? Don't you? Edit. I'm sorry Mrs. K, you don't really deserve all this Reddit hate.
I missed out on recognition at my school's big academic assembly for arguably the most important academic results one gets in their schooling career in my state in Australia, because the teacher I had sent my results to didn't pass on the news. It's been years and it still fills me with such exasperation.
In a 5th grade science test the question was, are there any stars in the solar system? I answered, yes, teacher marked it wrong. I went up afterwards and said, what about the sun? He said, he meant that all the other stars are not in our solar system and kept it marked wrong. Although I am harboring this for 50 years now, he was all around one of the best teachers I ever had and just passed away a week or so ago. But damn, that should have been marked, right?
Some friends from work planned a get-together at a local chain restaurant for my birthday. One of my co-workers found out and decided it should also be to celebrate her birthday because it's the day before mine. Already annoyed, but whatever. The night of the dinner, a friend bought us both slices of cheesecake and they were presented with candles, and everyone sang happy birthday. At the end, she blew out her candle and then mine. And laughed about it. It was my candle. You were barely invited. I've never forgotten about it.
I worked at McDonald's in high school. I trained maybe half a dozen other people who started there after I did and was never promoted to crew trainer for that sweet 15 cents an hour raise. I wouldn't really be salty about it if they hadn't promoted 2 people I trained to crew trainer, and one of them again to manager. When someone threw out my leftover Chinese which I was going to eat later. Excuse me, I was saving it for tomorrow. Don't throw out my food I paid for. The first day of 8th grade my best friend and friend group informed me that they would no longer be my friend. To this day, 20 years later, I still don't understand how or why things ended up that way. I can only guess because I was the shy nerd of the group and they were trying to fit in with the cool crowd. Regardless, it was a miserable experience that left me with quite a few trust issues.
They cancelled My Name is Earl after telling the writers that it was definitely safe to end season 4 on a cliffhanger as they were going to make several more. Also still super salty over Flash Forward, Utopia getting cancelled. Seems like half of the shows I get invested in are killed halfway through.
When my son was in Cub Scouts and it was our first time going to the Pinewood Derby. My son worked hard on his car and for a 7-year-old, it was decent. We show up and not a single kid built those cars, it was pretty much a dad competition. My son came in dead last and I was sad for him because his friends literally said that their dads all built their cars. So for the next 4 years my son picked the design and color scheme, and I built them while at work. We went on a 4-year win streak in the local, district and regional derbies. The look of anguish on those fathers' faces was worth it. Sorry, end of rant.
In middle school, I had a test with some true-false questions. One said something about the Atlantic Ocean and the West Coast. I am in the US. There was some other stuff as well that was true about the Atlantic, but since the Atlantic is the East Coast, I marked it false. It was counted wrong, and when I protested, the teacher said something along the lines of, "Obviously I meant East Coast." It was only 1 point and made no difference to my grade in the end, but my 13-year-old usually quiet teacher's pet self was ready to fucking riot. I honestly wish she had. Edit. I think this is now my most upvoted Reddit comment. 13-year-old me finally feels a little repaid for the injustice. Thank you all for commiserating with me.
When I was in high school, I was occasionally allowed to drive my family's third car. It had a slow leak in one of the tires, so we were all supposed to check the pressure and put air in it if we needed to. I picked up a friend to go to a movie, and when we came out, one tire was completely flat. It wasn't the one with the leak, so I put the spare on and drove home. I got absolute hell from my parents about it. How irresponsible I was to not check it. I'd have to pay for the repair. Why didn't I call roadside assistance, etc.? Took it to get fixed, repeat the whole lecture as we're dropping it off, and the tech who did it called my mom and told her he'd found a nail in the tire and there was no way I could have seen it coming. She refused to apologize and I still had to pay for it. It was the 3rd grade. I said a joke. Made the popular kid laugh really hard, but only he heard it. Made me feel great. Then he repeated the joke louder and literally the entire class and the teacher laughed. 3rd grade me was so mad. Edit. A lot of people are asking what the joke was. I think the teacher was talking about how there was a bunch of Caesars, like Caesar Augustus, Julius Caesar. And I said, and Caesar salad. Okay, yeah, it was lame, but I was proud of myself for coming up with it. My delivery was perfect even. The popular kid was like, oh, and Caesar salad. And that's when the laughing commenced. It's funny to think that 3rd grade me was so distraught.
When I was a freshman in college, my mom gave my car to my jailbird brother. Every time he got out, she'd scrape a bunch of stuff together for his fresh start without ever running it by me. He showed up to my school, changed the battery for me, and then drove away in it. He didn't tell me his intentions beforehand, so it wasn't until then that I caught on. As he drove off, I called my mom and she just said, "I'll help you with a new one." He moved out of state with that car, wrecked it within weeks, and has since gone back to jail multiple times. Neither of them have given me a sincere apology to this day.
In 4th grade English class, I've used the word gross in a random sentence we had to write. The teacher argued that it isn't a real word. I said that it is, that I saw it a few times in video games and movies, and she said that they aren't a reliable source. I said to her that I'm gonna show it in the dictionary, but she instead grabbed me by the arm and took me out of the classroom and locked the door. To this day I am still fuming about this. And then she had the nerve to be all chummy when I met her once in a supermarket. Gross. Edit. In both cases it was meant like, disgusting, and I know there are even more meanings behind the word. I wonder if she knows by now. My family had a PS1 when I was little and we had quite some games, some of them are pretty expensive nowadays. Well, at some point the PS1 broke and my mom gave away all games. There is no point in keeping the games if you can't play them. Joke's on her. I bought a used PS1 about 2 years ago. Now I have to rebuy all games we had.
3 months ago I went on maternity leave. The woman hired to cover for me was being paid $3 more than I'm currently paid. She was going to be kept on as a full-time accounting assistant after I returned, but she couldn't keep up with my daily tasks and completely fucked up several databases that I had to correct when I returned to work the following month. When I asked for a raise, they offered me 0.50 after telling me how crucial I am to the structure of the company. Needless to say, I'm looking for a new job.
My parents objected to my sister marrying the guy who is now her husband. They treated her badly, and showed up in a sour mood to her wedding. They never apologized for their bad behavior. My sister and her husband have been married for 8 years. Parents, if your adult daughter wants to do something you disagree with, then let her know you think it's a mistake, but when she makes a decision, your job is to support her in that decision, not to repeatedly harp on her about it and make her hate you.
All ended last year. This boy and girl used to bully me so incredibly hard to the point I would cry myself to sleep or consider not going to school. It got to a point the girl threatened me and said she was gonna wait outside of school to beat me up. But absolutely everyone, including teachers, absolutely adored them and told me I was being childish and that the girl has a bad past. They both do, as if that was an excuse. They also praised her for having an attitude and mistaking her rudeness for being real and brave. I went through messed up things too, most of which made my school counselors cry, but I didn't bully people just because they were quiet and didn't talk much. Edit. Thank you for the support, guys. It honestly made me tear up. You're all fucking amazing. Less than 3. When I was in high school, I entered a book quiz and one of the books I chose was Demon Thief by Darren Shan. During the quiz, I was asked what was the main characteristic of the Demonata summoned by the punk during the concert. I said it had 3 heads. Wrong. The answer was that it had a dyed mohawk. Except it was the punk that summoned it that had the mohawk, not the damned Demonata. I lost a point because the question setter could either not read, not write, or couldn't remember the book correctly.
When I was in high school, someone tagged up the school. They announced there would be a reward for anyone who rats anyone out. I get called in the office and find out I'm suspended for vandalization. I didn't do it and had no idea who. 4 days later I'm allowed to come back to school because they found who actually did it. I just got an apology.
Game of Thrones final season. Thanks for the awards. The Faith in Humanity one made me laugh.
Avatar, the giant international blockbuster, used the papyrus font as its logo. Skittles changing green from lime to apple.
I found a bongo next to the trash at my old apartment and it was a perfect time capsule of the 90s. It had Grateful Dead stickers, a smiley face holographic sticker, a pot leaf sticker, an alien. I'm telling you, if someone made this as a prop for a movie about the 90s, I would have told them that it's too on the nose. When I came home from work, the first thing my GF's friend said was, "You're welcome," and I was like, what? She had peeled off all of the vintage stickers and now it was just a boring trash bongo. I'm still mad. Don't touch my shit.
iPhones are better with a headphone jack. I'm never buying fucking AirPods. I don't care if I have $1 billion.
When I say something in a social gathering and everyone either ignores me or just stares in silence. I don't know why, but it's just like that for me.
The last apartment I lived in was extremely shady and did a lot of shit under the table. Management basically didn't exist. I was forced out because of rent hikes. A few months later I find out that they reported me to a collection agency for not paying the last month's rent. My credit is ruined now because they took advantage of me and lied, and I have no recourse at all because I have no receipts. Management was never on property, so there was never anyone around to make receipts for rent. This is the shit poor people deal with all the time. Just falling through the cracks.
The healthcare system let my 25-year-old pregnant sister and her baby die of epilepsy because she didn't have health insurance for a simple test.
The Star Wars sequel trilogy. They had every advantage in the world by working under the Star Wars name but still made a barely coherent and unfulfilling mess.
Pluto's declassification as a planet to a dwarf planet. Like, I understand why, but that shit hurt. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the gold.